Hello, wonderful people of the world. It's another My Music with me, Graham Coath. In a minute, I'm going to be speaking to the wonderful Rosie, who's joining us all the way from
London.
London. What a wonderful place. A million miles away from here, because I'm in Somerset. Wherever you are in the world, take care as we now watch this quick video from Analog Trash. Do enjoy.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
Today's guest, everybody, is the wonderful Rosie Gault. Hello.
Hiya.
Now, London makes sense, really, because from what very little of you I know, you studied at BIMM, or you are studying at BIMM. Is that right?
Yeah, in my second year.
Oh, how's that going?
It's really good, thank you. I enjoy it.
Cool. What is it that you've learnt so far?
I think probably the most I've learned would be to do with actually like more of the production side of music, because I've had singing lessons and lessons on music theory since I was quite young, but I'd never ever worked with Logic Pro or Ableton or anything like that until I came and started studying here. So that's been really interesting.
That's cool. Did you take to it like a duck to water, or was it a little bit of like, ooh, there's so many buttons?
Yeah, I think in the very beginning it was quite daunting, especially because I had never even really used MacBooks much. So even
Oh, wow. So the
yeah,
platform itself, you were a
even
bit...
using the laptop was learning something new. But I think once I got to grips with the basis of it, it was a really good opportunity to I could finally put the music that I was hearing in my head, like actually create it instead of it just always being on a guitar or a piano.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, how you get used to one system or another. I've actually been using Macs for over 20 years, believe it or
Yeah.
not. And now if I sit down in front of like a Windows PC, I'm like, oh, that's a bit odd.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right at all.
Yeah, I'd never used one, and BIMM Institute has really good music facilities, so they've got rooms that are just full of MacBooks that you can use to make music, which is so amazing. But at first I was like, I don't even really know how to turn it on. So it's definitely a steep learning curve.
They have such fine buttons, don't they, on Macs?
Yeah,
It's not like a big clunky button that you get on.
I'd had the same HP laptop since I was like 13 probably. I was like, this is very different.
Oh, there you go. Now, so you say that you've been quite musical from a young age, etc.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in a very musical house? Did you have quite a musical upbringing?
I think so. My dad plays guitar. So the guitar that I have is his old guitar that he gave me.
Oh,
I
lovely.
think that probably was the start of it. And even though
Did
my
he
mum,
did he give you that guitar as an excuse so he could go and buy a new one, or has he just stopped playing?
he has a few guitars, but
Ah, you see.
man, for sure. So that probably inspired it. Also, just like I remember, like even things like Disney films with like the songs and stuff. I just loved. I just really, really thought any character in a film who could sing, I wanted to be that person. I was like, that's like I remember High School Musical. I was like, oh my god, these are like the coolest people ever. Like I just always was very, very drawn to singers, and I really wanted to be a singer.
Now, well, I'm going to take you there then. High School Musical. Who was your favourite character?
Probably Gabrielle, the main character, but also Sharpay. Really, I know she's meant to be the bad character, but she kind of slays.
Yeah. See, I like Ryan. I think Ryan's a bit
You've got to
out
love.
there, isn't he? Absolutely out there, and some of his dance moves are just not sure about wearing a like trilby type hat all of the time. I think that would make you go thin on the top, but it's the rest of it was fantastic. So, in terms of your early experiences of listening, what was it that where was like the first music, other than sort of musicals on TV, etc., where it really turned your ear and you were like, oh, I love this. I love what someone's doing with their voice there. Or I love what they're doing musically.
I think Carly Rae Jepsen, when I was a bit younger, I remember obviously Call Me Maybe was massive. That was always on the radio and stuff. And then I had her album that song was on. Like, I remember asking for my parents to buy it so we could listen to the CD in the car. I think I've always gravitated quite a lot towards female singers that have quite a sweet voice and like a nice tone, which definitely, like, I think influenced me a lot. Like, I often speak about this with other singers, that I feel the music that you listen to growing up really influences how you sing, because you, in the beginning, you're imitating so much like what you hear. So like, I quite like singing higher songs and things like that, as opposed to, so I know a lot of girls who grew up loving Adele, they really belt and they can sing so loud. Like, I think, kind of probably my first like influence.
No, yeah, it does. It does make a difference.
Yeah.
You raised a really interesting point, and it's something I've talked about with a number of musicians on here, having been a singer myself, which is that did you struggle to find your own voice? Did you go through sort of like levels of like your own voice was still trying to imitate other people in when you were singing particular things or whatever, and you had to kind of learn not to do the imitation-y bit, or you had to learn that you maybe have picked up some bad habits along the way through the imitation and you had to drop those?
Yeah, I think definitely I didn't think about it too much until I started songwriting. And then when I started writing in lockdown, just like me and my music teacher thought it would be something like nice to do. And then when I wrote my first ever song, I realized that like my voice sounded better. I was like, I sound a bit different. And then I realized it was because I had nothing to imitate. And so I was just doing what felt natural to me. And then I was like, oh, I really need to work on this when I'm covering songs as well, because it really brought out the best in my voice. And I hadn't even realized that I was like straining to imitate someone until I didn't have anybody to imitate. So definitely, I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with when they first like sing.
Now at the moment you've got is it 3 songs on Spotify? Yeah. Are they all self-produced, or did you have hand in anybody else help you with the production at all of that?
Yeah, I do. I work with other people. I really like having other people work on my music. One, because it like you get things that you wouldn't if it was just me. Like, people bring ideas that I would never even think of. And also, it's nice to have second opinions on things. I don't want everything to always just be me, because then it's like, I don't know, sometimes it can feel a bit like narrow, the creative process. I do all of the songwriting, and I usually record it on my own as well. Like, I'll book a studio in my university, and I'll record all the vocals, and I'll do some of the production myself. And then once I have a demo that is like, I'll get some reference tracks, and then I'll work with a producer from like, usually someone from my university who studies production. I'll send them the demo and I'll say like, oh, this is the kind of vibe I'm going for, and then we like finish it that way.
Have you ever worked with anyone, you don't have to name them obviously, but have you ever worked with anyone and they've given you something back and you've just really not liked it?
I wouldn't say so, actually. I'm quite selective with who I
in the first place.
Yeah, because like, I want to make sure that whoever I'm working with, there's good communication there as to like what I'm looking for, and I don't want to waste somebody's time as well. I don't want to, because a lot of people from my university study different genres, so I'm very much a pop singer, sometimes more acoustic stuff as well. But there are a lot of people who are doing productions specifically for like dance music or something like that. So I tend to really communicate like, what kind of genres do you like to produce, like, and I tend to hear some of their other stuff as well first to see like what kind of sound they go for.
In terms of the kind of themes that you're writing about, is that has that in part been influenced by the fact that you are studying music at the same time, or is it just completely genuine to you?
I think it is very genuine. I mean, at my university, they do really encourage you to be authentic, and they really make the assessments, they fit in with what you're going to be doing anyway. So the song, my most popular song is Broken Bones, and I made that for one of my exams in first year. For the assessment, we just had to make a song, and we had to self-produce it. And then after that assessment was over, I got a really good mark, and I'd gotten a lot of positive feedback on the song. I then worked with someone to like mix it and master it professionally, and then released it that way. So I think it is, my university is really good at catering to the fact that we are artists, and they don't want to change us. I think that's like a good thing, is they're not looking to make us like an industry robot and say like, you should write a song with this structure about this. They really let us do our own thing, and then they just sort of give us feedback on that.
That's which is interesting in a way. I mean, I'm pleased to hear that from the music point of view. What about from the music business point of view? Learning that at university as well is, when you're taught that, does some of that seem a bit kind of, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, etc. And is it difficult from the artistic point of view? Is it difficult to kind of separate off the artist bit from the business head point of view sometimes?
It can be. I think that definitely learning more about the industry has been not shocking to me, because I know that the music industry is quite hit and miss, but definitely like it's harder to stay motivated once you realize how, like, the negative sides of it. Like, until I moved to London, I was from a very small town near Nottingham, and I'd never done even an open mic. So then coming here and I starting to do gigs and stuff, and working with agencies and music promoters and things, the stress of selling enough tickets, it starts to become about money for the first time, which it never had before. I mean, when I didn't take a gap year, so I was 18 when I moved here, and I'd never thought about, I mean, I'd thought about the money side of it, but I'd never thought about the fact that I was gonna have to make money for other people, if that
Right.
makes sense. Like, when someone books me for a gig, if I don't sell enough tickets, it's them who's losing the money, not me, because I'm not going to get much of the money anyway. You get like maybe 10% of the ticket sales. It's like, I need to make money for them in order to perform, which is a different transaction. I'd never experienced that. So I think it's helpful to be surrounded by so many musicians who are experiencing the same thing, because we can speak about it, and we can speak about it to our lecturers, and they can support us and like help us to adjust to the business side of it, because it is a very different world from the creative side.
Well, it is. Although I'm a strong believer that actually musicians in this day and age need to be creative in all aspects, even the business side, in order to maybe sort of surprise maybe the
Yeah.
market sometimes, rather than just taking the standard calls. I mean, I work with some artists in terms of their social media, for example, and we're always talking maybe how can we do it differently from other artists out there, because everybody does this thing where it's like, oh, this is going to be my latest release, and now we're going to tease it, and now we're going to release it, and now we're going to push it again, and and it's nice to think about where you fit in the world outside of your music as well, because I think one of the things that any young musician coming through now needs to think about is where else can you speak out other than just your music. Do you have a sense of that?
Definitely. I think that I tend to look up to musicians who are very passionate about world issues as well. I think it's really important that people aren't hesitant to voice the things that they believe in. So I think it's definitely important to remember your like morals and stuff when you're so involved with social media. Because that was another thing that has started to become a lot more prevalent is obviously social media with the music industry. It's massive, massive thing now. I mean, you can start your entire career just because you go viral online. Like, that's so crazy and so different to how the industry has been before. I think it's important that people remember that social media can also be a place to be an activist and things like that, as well as just like promotion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's because we're coming towards the end of 2023. What does 2024 look like for Rosie? After this year, and then you move into your final year, you must be now thinking about life after university. Have you got any plans in place? Are you going to start to do a few more gigs at some point, or?
Yeah, well, right now I took the summer, I stayed in London. I only went home for a couple of weeks. My flat I can stay in for the whole of summer. So I saved up some money from working so that now I'm working fewer hours at my like weekend job. I have more time, so I am doing more gigs. I have a few coming up next month. So hopefully next year I will continue doing gigs, some more releases. I really want to take time to release a few songs that I think are really like good quality work. Like I think my songwriting has improved a lot since moving here, and just being surrounded by music all the time. I really want to record and release those recent songs. So hopefully that's what I'll do next year. And for our third year, we do a big final project, and that can be like an album or like an EP. So I think that could be a really good thing to work on, because I'd love to release an EP anyway. So it's really good that I can combine that with my studies. Like, this is what I mean about my uni. I like the way they do it, because you can use the creative stuff that you want to be doing anyway to get your degree. So I think that I would quite like to do an EP or an album.
Sounds great. I wish you all the best for that, and I hope that happens in 2024. Have you got any one tip you would give to any other young musician that's just watching this now and thinking, I'd really love to do my own music, etc.? Something you've learned over the past 2 years or whatever, where you think, avoid this, or you really need to know this. Have you got any one tip?
I think there's so many things I could say. I think for me, if I could go back in time and say something to myself, it would be to just don't let one person dictate how you feel about your work. Because obviously some people are going to like it and some people aren't, but that doesn't change the quality of it. So like even with my lecturers, one person might say, oh, this is what you need to do to improve your voice, but then someone else says something completely different. And it's just about seeing what actually helps you, and try not to get completely swamped with all the feedback you're getting, because some of it is going to contradict each other, and that doesn't mean that you aren't doing what you should be. It's just different people's opinions. I mean, I think Taylor Swift is like my favorite artist in the world. Some people really don't like her music at all, but that doesn't change the quality of her music. It's just like opinions. So just take it, but like, it's not who you are. It's just like people, what you do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, those 5 people are standing over there that don't like Taylor Swift's music. Everybody else is, of course, a massive fan. I think that's very valid, and I think it's a very mature head that you've got on you to recognise that so young. And I think it's really important, because you're always going to come up against those different opinions. I think one of the things I would say into that as well is, for anyone, is to learn to ask for feedback, because it's almost better to be in a position where you are wanting that feedback and have the right skin on to accept feedback, rather than walk through life thinking, I don't want people to give me feedback, because it might hurt, because then it's going to hurt more. You know, I think look for it, ask for it, but have the head knowledge to go, what comes in, I know my own voice, I know my own and when I say voice, I mean sort of in the greater sense. I know my own voice. I know what I want to do, and I know a sense of who I am as a creator. I'm going to take some of that. I'm going to take some of that,
Yeah.
but ultimately, I'm going to make the choice. I think
Yeah,
that's really, really valid. Well, I look forward to seeing more of Rosie in the coming year. In the meantime, we need to add you, of course, to the My Music podcast playlist. So, which of your songs would you like added on there, and why?
I would say Ford Fiesta because
Lovely.
it's my most recent song, and I think that it is probably it's just exactly the kind of sound I've always wanted to make in music. I had the biggest role in the production of that song out of all of them. And I was really happy with just like the energy of the song. I remember listening to it when it was finished and just thinking, this is what I've always like wanted my music to sound like. And that really excited me. So I think that's definitely my favorite of my tracks that are released so far.
Well, I'm very pleased you picked that because that's my favourite of your tracks so far as well. So, but that will be added to the My Music podcast playlist, joining about 17 and a half hours worth of music. One track from everybody that's ever been on this podcast.
I love that.
And please do share it as well with all of your fans and friends, because the more we can get musicians sharing it, the more likes it gets, the more everybody benefits, which is a fantastic thing. In the meantime, folks, do go and look at Rosie's music on the old Spotify, and don't just play it or stream it, but do follow her, like it as well. And I presume when you're about to release something else, you do the pre-stream thing as well, the pre-save, etc. Yeah. Okay. So do pre-save as well, because it's really good for the algorithm. And all of that. In the meantime, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you
My
so
Music.
much.
I hope you've enjoyed our little chat today.
Lovely.
Folks, more My Music coming soon. If you've enjoyed this, please do share with your friends, the tortoise, the dog, whoever. If you haven't enjoyed it, I'm watching you. And until next time, bye for now.